Hello and welcome to this episode of International Security Journal Leaders in Security podcast series. I'm your host Eve Goode and I'm the digital content editor for International Security Journal. On today's episode, I'm joined by Xtract One's Peter Evans, the CEO. And today we'll be talking about all things modern approaches to weapon detection in venues, stadiums and workplaces. So Peter, it's great to have you on. How are you today?
Well, good morning or good afternoon, Eve, depending which part of the world you're in. I'm doing well. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold that I picked up the last time I was in the UK. So I apologize for the scratchy throat.
No worries at all. So today you're going to be telling me everything about Xtract One that I need to know. So if you're ready, we can jump straight in with the first question that I'd love to know more about. So metal detectors have been a go-to system for decades. What are the limitations of using these systems today?
Well, it's a great question, Eve. If you think about it, the metal detector has probably been around for 50, 60, 70 years or more. And it's sort of been the default for screening for weapons. And if you think back 50 years ago, Eve, you're probably too young, but at that time, everyone walked around with a leather wallet. Maybe they had a key to the front door of the house. Maybe they had a key to a car. People didn't carry a lot of metal on them. And so metal was a very good proxy for possibly someone carrying a gun or a knife. Mm-hmm. Very easy. Today, I think about it. I walk around with my Beats headset on. I've got 2 smartphones. I've got earbuds. I've got my Apple Watch. I've got my laptop, my tablet, my keys, and everything. And we carry a lot of metal. So it's not so good of a proxy anymore. And if you think about a metal detector, the process of walking through, divesting of all that metal, creates a very slow experience. And if I were to give you kind of an analogy, when the metal detector became, prominent in the world 50 years ago, we also tended to use a thing called a fax machine a lot. And you can imagine us trying to do this interview, Eve, together with a fax machine. It's laughable.
Yeah.
Imagine holding a Zoom call with 10 people with fax machines. It's laughable. So why are we applying 50-year-old metal detection technology meant for a different problem at a different time with a different society to today's modern problems? And so, they have been the go-to system for decades, but there's limitations. In today's world, with the expectations of guests, I've paid $5,000 for my Taylor Swift tickets, and I want to get into the venue. I don't want to stand outside waiting in a long line. It's become a real challenge where we want more and more security because of the unrest in the world and because of the weapons incidents and things like Martin's Law coming into place. And the old technology just doesn't fit the modern day experience and expectations.
Yeah, it really does make you think. I was just thinking after you said that, I do actually have loads of metal things on me. So a metal detector just wouldn't work.
It wouldn't. And think about the time to take off your jewelry, take off your headset. Oh, you forgot your earbuds. Oh, wait a minute. I've got one smartphone in one pocket, one in another. And so it's slow.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's about 6 people per minute for a metal detector. Compare that to advanced technologies like ours. We're running 50, 60 people a minute. So I'm getting a 7, 10 times faster ingress, depending on the venue. And that means I can get people in much faster, which reduce the risk of big crowds who are getting agitated outside. They want to go in and see the football match. They don't want to be standing in line. And so you reduce external risk. You have a better guest experience when people are just streaming in through modern weapons detection systems.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the new modern systems that Xtract One's using and has created?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of look at the problem differently. And we've created these purpose-built sensors that are looking for certain characteristics of objects that pass through. And then we have AI algorithms which are analyzing those characteristics and matching that against a library of what the system's been trained to understand, with the ability to then say, 95% probability that's a gun, 87% probability that's an iPhone. And through that, the bulk of the people walking through who don't have a weapon just walk through. Like you're walking to your favorite Starbucks, your favorite pub, or your favorite store. And so you're not stopping, divesting, and going through all that nonsense. And so the idea, though, is if you do have a weapon, the systems will specifically identify with a photo of you, Eve, for example, and it'll show a picture of you, and it'll show you where the weapon is on the body and what the weapon is. So Eve has a gun in her backpack, and she has a knife in her pocket. And so that makes the whole security experience much better too, because the security guard is armed with the knowledge to say, look, 99% of these people just walked in with nothing, but this one lady has a gun in her backpack. Completely changes the experience and the dynamic. And we're now proactive in security instead of reactive.
So I know we've spoken a lot about like venues and concert venues, like your Taylor Swift concert. So is that the most suitable place? Like, is that where you think it is most efficient in like concert venues, or is there other places that you think are more beneficial?
Well, that's a really good question. We started targeting, stadiums and arenas because many of them were already screening with old metal detectors, and they already had budget and they already had fans who were used to being screened. And so it became very easy to say, well, if I can get people in 6, 7, 8 times faster with a lower operational cost and a better guest experience, it was an easy thing to shift the budget spend from one thing to another. Having said that, though, unfortunately, the world is a very concerning place right now. And we had a lot of hospitals, a lot of schools, a lot of office buildings, and a lot of manufacturing sites calling us and saying they've had weapons incidences. And you can see sort of the benefits and the outcomes. As an example, one of our customers is a very large automotive customer. They have 10,000 workers coming in for each of 3 shifts a day, so 30,000 workers. They make $1 million of cars every single minute. So, operational efficiency is very, very important to them. And what they found was previously when they were screening people, going through the metal detectors and then checking their badges and things like this, it'd take about 21 seconds per person to get in. Now it's taking 2.5 seconds.
It's amazing.
So if you think about that improvement, multiplied by 3 shifts, multiplied by 10,000 people, multiplied by 365 days a year, it's had such a productivity benefit to them. They're now insisting their supply chain, the people who make transmissions and engines and all these other parts, now start adopting our technology so they become more efficient.
So obviously with that, now that we've got all the benefits of it, and we can obviously see 2.5 seconds down from 21 seconds is amazing. It's like, honestly, like getting people through that quickly is just insane. Like, and you can know straight away, safety is just like.
Well, and the interesting thing is all of these customers, we all believe the metal detectors are infallible. They've been around for all our life. So we just assume we've seen them from the day we were babies going through the airport and things. So we assume they're perfect. Well, here's what's interesting. I was just at an NBA venue over the weekend, and they were doing side-by-side testing of the technology and of us versus a metal detector. And they'd walk through with a knife, and we would catch it 4 out of 4 times, and the metal detector would only catch it 1 out of 4. Now, there were times when they did a different weapon, and maybe the metal detector caught it 4 out of 4 times, and we caught it 3 out of 4. But in general, we have this presumption, because they've been around so long, metal detectors are infallible, when in fact what we're finding these side-by-side tests is we're a little bit better in security with a little bit better guest experience. So then you take it to somewhere like that NBA stadium. What they also found was the average person used to wait in line for about 17 minutes to get through the metal detectors. Now they're in under 2 minutes. And of course, Eve, what's the first thing you do when you go to see a concert, you go to see Adele or a Coldplay or whoever, right? The first thing you do when you're in, you go get some food and beverage, beer and a pretzel or something like that, or a T-shirt or merchandise. So there's a positive revenue impact. There's a great guest experience impact. And, it's overall, you're not kind of inspecting 100% of the people going through the metal detector, just those who alert. So overall, it's a really nice value proposition as people think about how do I adopt this for various industries.
Yeah, because in the UK, when we go to concerts, they usually have the metal detector, but it's on the one that you
the wand, the hand wand.
Yeah. One by one, you go through, you starfish, and then they literally scan you down, and it does take a while. So maybe we'll see some Xtract One over here then.
Absolutely. And we are in the UK. We're up in Co-op Live Arena, and I'm very pleased to say there's more business that we'll be announcing soon. So that's good. Our big difference and why it's important to the UK is, in the United States, the predominant issue is firearms. We see those getting into schools, which is an unfortunate tragedy. We see them getting into hospitals. But in the UK, the primary issue is more edged weapons, knives, kitchen knives, pocket knives, box cutters, things like this. Our big differentiator for a market like the UK is we're an and, not an or. And what do I mean by that? With something like a metal detector or other solutions that are out there, in order to catch the edged weapons, you have to turn the sensitivity up so high. I'm now alerting on all the smartphones. And so you start to say, okay, I now need to make a decision. Do I turn the sensitivity down so I'm not having that high alert rate? But now I'm accepting risk and weapons coming in. And that's a liability concern. If something happens, the lawsuits just got much larger. The other choice is, okay, I'm going to catch all the weapons, but I'm going to have a terrible experience like the metal detectors. In the case of Xtract One, we can get that 50, 60 people per minute through the system. We can catch all the edged weapons. We can catch the firearms, and we can have a low false alert rate. So you're getting all the benefits and not having to make a risk convenience trade-off. That's why we think the UK, Australia, Singapore are unbelievably great markets for us as a company, because we can address the actual business need.
No, I agree. I think that specifically in the UK, we have quite a problem with knife crime. So bringing over weapon detection like that would be really beneficial for us.
There was an unfortunate incident in Manchester when I was last over in the UK about 2-3 weeks ago, right in around Yom Kippur. Mm-hmm. And, that was a knife attack.
Yeah.
And you start to think of, what if somebody chose to go to one of the theaters in Leicester Square, or they went to one of the concert halls, or they went to one of the arenas, because there was a particular type of performer that they felt would be a good target. That's unfortunate. And you're right, it is a knife crime issue. And we're very pleased that we can catch those edge weapons.
So I know we spoke about, obviously your detection rate. So from standard metal detectors, they detect 1 in 4, and then you've gone to 4 out of 4 in 2.5 seconds. So do you think that end users will trust modern detection more than traditional methods, or do you think it's going to be hard to push people to go towards more modern technology?
That's a great question. Again, we've all seen the metal detectors around. We see them in airports, and there's sort of this assumption, well, if it's good enough for the airport, it must work. Mm. But security experts know that you can get a very large knife, you can get a very large gun through a metal detector. It just depends on how you carry it. And not the general public doesn't know that. So I think it's not so much of a trust issue with the metal detectors versus ours. I think there is a false trust in metal detectors. But what we find is, because the technology is new, it's not, people are taking the time to go and validate it in their venue. And almost every customer we work with will go through a full battery of, hey, let's bring out 20 weapons. Let's put them on 8 positions on the body. Let's walk through 20 times on each and validate and compare to show them the evidence. And then we go to third-party organizations to have them validate our technology. In the UK, there's the NPSA, which is a fantastic organization that took about 3 or 4 days to evaluate our technology and place reports out there that others can go access. In the United States, the TSA, Department of Homeland Security, and the FAA have all run similar sort of testing and verifications on our solutions, and putting out reports, which we're very pleased with, that will tell people this is what we do, but also this is what we don't do. So then people can plan accordingly. So, trust is something that will be built up over time. I think where the real gap in the execution of these systems is not the systems themselves, but getting the whole change of the business processes correct. Everyone knows how a metal detector works. All the fans know how it works. All the security staff knows how it works. There's a habit there. And when all of a sudden the technology changes, imagine if you're going from a stick shift car to an automatic, or vice versa. You've never run a stick shift before. You kind of have to learn the process again. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the real gap comes in execution, whereas something where you invest in onboarding and training.
So I wanted to talk to you a bit about the detection industry. How do you think that it's going to evolve over the next few years? What technologies do you see coming in, or not just for Xtract One, but for the whole sector?
Well, overall, I think you're going to see new innovations. Again, the whole idea, can we have digital innovation change the way we do physical security? And let me just go down that for a path for a moment, Eve, and come back to your question. We've changed the way that we do banking. right? I can't remember the last time I was in a physical bank.
Mm-hmm.
My paycheck comes to me automatically. I pay my bills all online. It's all been digitally transformed.
Yeah.
The same thing with retail. 99% of what we buy online and it ships to our house and they're giving us recommendations. People who bought this, bought that. We've transformed everything in the world through digital innovation, but not the physical security industry. The typical answer is, oh, let's hire more guards, let's get more hand wands, let's get more metal detectors, right? And so that would be like saying, hey, I want to innovate the banking industry, let's build more brick buildings. It's kind of antiquated. So I think you're going to see more and more digital innovation because it scales. Software scales. Software can always be on. You can put AI on cameras that can look for anomalous behaviors. There's a gentleman walking across the parking lot with a gun in his hand. There's 5 people standing by the back door who've never stood by the back door before and looking for those kinds of things and using those digital insights to proactively inform security officials. And then I think you're going to start to see integration of things. So, Eve, as an example, you go to a concert, you might have to go to one line to have your bag searched, make sure you're not bringing alcohol, another line to make sure you're not bringing a weapon, another line to have your ticket validated. It's a long process.
Yeah.
So you start to look at a platform like ours and others. I can start to use the technology to say, this is Eve. Eve hasn't been banned before. Eve has a valid ticket. Eve doesn't have a weapon. Oh, and Eve's a VIP because she's been here 3 times before. So let's send her a text telling her to come to the VIP entrance. And you haven't broken stride all the way from the parking lot to your seat.
Yeah.
So we look at the whole end-to-end guest journey. And I think as you start to integrate more AI on cameras, more technologies like ours, more digital insights platforms, you can create a better guest experience with a higher degree of security.
So obviously we've been speaking about implementing like Xtract One's new technologies to save time, and like obviously the guest experience is really important to you guys. So if you could change one thing about how organizations approach weapon detection today, what would it be?
That's a great question. Boy, I probably have 2 or 3 answers to
That's
that.
fine. List them all.
The first one would be don't believe the marketing people.
Yeah.
Now, I can say that because at one time I was the CMO of Dell Technologies and a couple of other publicly traded companies. Marketing tends to tell half the story. You have to test and verify. Back to what we were saying earlier. Build up your own understanding of the trust in the technologies. Test them extensively. There's a big venue in London who, the gentleman there extensively tests every single technology on the market once a year, and he builds up that level of knowledge, and that's admirable. You also need to think not just about the technology, but the people and processes aspect of things. I can have the best, most beautiful Aston Martin car, but if I can't drive a stick shift, I haven't got the processes right, and it's going to be clunky. Mm-hmm. So you need to think about training, getting the flow, the con ops. It's different, and invest the time into getting the whole end-to-end process right. I think would be the second thing. I think the third thing for me is, for customers, you look for that referenceability. Talk to people who've used the technologies already and learn from their experiences. It's okay to test and trial things. I think people need to get out on the edge and start to look at these technologies. Oftentimes people are reticent to do that. It's okay to test and trial. It's okay to say, you know what, let's just do this in 2 entrances for a year and we'll do the other 12 later. But, you got to dip your toe in the water to become very knowledgeable on the technologies. They will change the industry. Obviously, you want to have the best guest experience possible, whether you're a hospital or whether you're an arena. Be bold, make the move, but do it with a full plan in mind.
Well, I think all 3 of those are really interesting points to make. I mean, I agree with every single one of them. So it would be great to see it like implemented when adopting new technologies. And I mean, for my sake and for all of us Brits, we hope that Xtract One does get implemented into our venues as well, so that we can get through quickly and get to see all our concerts and football, anything.
Well, think of going to the museums or going to, theater, or, Martin's Law is now expecting people to, and has put in place some strong teeth around penalties that venues with more than 800 people have to go and screen for weapons or have a policy and a process around that. And so I think there's a lot of folks who are going to be looking for expert advice on how to do this. We're only one part of the equation. We're not the entire answer. But there's great organizations out there who can help people figure out the whole policies and processes. There's some great companies in the UK right now that we're working with. And, it will come. And so my advice to people would be start the journey now, because it'll take a while to figure out all the people, processes, as well as the technology.
Well, Peter, that's brought us to the end of the episode today. So thank you very much for joining me. And I look forward to seeing all of Xtract One's latest innovations in the weapons detection sector.
It's my pleasure, Eve. And next time I'm in the UK, I'll let you know where we are and where the demos are. Come by and see us.
Thank you also to our listeners for joining me on today's podcast. I've been your host, Eve Goode, and please keep your eye and your ear out for our new episode coming very soon.